Moms who know do less so they can focus on what matters most, taking care of themselves, their families, and living their God-given purpose. Moms who know focus on the little things they can do that grow to have a huge impact. You are connecting with your family, your true self, and your God-given purpose. You are a mom who knows. Hello and welcome to the Moms Who Know podcast. I'm your host, Chanel Nielsen, and this is a special, almost an introduction podcast. Now, the podcast has been around for 2.5 years, but this is an introduction of things moving forward. And the new intro that you heard at the beginning of the podcast is what we are going to be focusing on. And you'll notice there's some changes and some different things as we move forward. So I'm excited to tell you about them, to tell you why, and to let you know a little bit what to expect. So first, why are we changing at all? Well, as I've done this podcast for a while, I wanted to really start to focus a little bit more. And all along, I've known that this podcast is supposed to be for moms. And as I did it for a while, I decided, okay, this is really supposed to be for moms to be able to take care of themselves and to focus on what they need to learn and do. But that was a little bit broad in some ways, even for me to wrap my mind around. And so instead of being so broad, I've decided to really narrow it down and break it down into, okay, what is the focus? And we're getting a really focused, pinpointed view of what you can expect on the podcast. And you can know exactly, what topics we're going to be covering over as we podcast together. That means also that these podcasts are going to be more relevant to you. We're really going to deal with issues that you need at this point in your life and really get down to what matters the most to you. This is also helpful for me because I have a lot of people who reach out and who want to be on the podcast, and so many great things, you guys, so many great topics. And sometimes I think, I'll say yes to someone, but really maybe they're not the best fit for this podcast. And so this is going to help me to know, well, who is the best fit and who should be in front of you? Because even though some of them might be a great fit for me, maybe they're not the people I need to bring to you. So why these topics? The idea of the new podcast is moms who know do less so they can focus on what matters most, right? Our family relationship, self-care, and our God-given purpose. So I want to start off with doing less. We want to do less so we can focus on what matters most. The idea there is to simplify. We live in this amazing time when we have access to so much information. You can get online, listen to podcasts, read books, just find information about anything you want to know. And sometimes that can be really overwhelming. I think that we're in this era where we just are bombarded with information, but we are lacking in implementation. So we just know so much and we have access to so much, but we're still struggling to do. And so what I want us to do is to do less, to get rid of some of the things that don't matter so we can focus on what really does. And I hope that with this new focus, it helps you not to feel so pressured to do it all. Now, like most of you, right? I'm a podcast listener and I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of them have great ideas. And so for some of us, that can be a little bit overwhelming because we're hearing all these good things and we want to do all the things. But when we try to do them all, we end up doing none. And so what I really hope is that we can break it down, do less, but make sure that those things that we are doing are the things that really matter the most. So one of those things that really matters the most is our family relationships. And I consider those to be parenting and marriage. Probably not in that order. Probably it's marriage and parenting, because these relationships in our home are our primary focus, and we want to make sure that we are connecting with our kids, with our spouses. We want to raise good kids and we want to get rid of things that get in the way of us doing that. And sometimes it's really a matter of good, better, best. You may have heard that before. Sometimes the good things can get in the way of the best things because there are so many good things we have to choose from. But we need to decide what is actually best for my family, what's best for my relationship with my spouse, what's best for my relationship with my kids. And so we only take and implement those things that are really going to help us progress and really going to help us to become the kind of parents and the kind of wives that we want to be. So, our marriages, you guys, so important. That's going to continue to be a focus of the podcast. James and I love learning about marriage. We love sharing what we learn. We love talking about marriage and we love being married. And I hope that you do too. And I hope that if you don't right now, that you can start implementing some of the things that we talk about on the podcast and really work to strengthen your marriage, because when you are thriving in that area and your marriage is going well, then it really just helps everything else. It helps your parenting to go smoother. It helps you to just feel better and have a better outlook on life. And so we want to make sure we're prioritizing that. The second one is self-care. Now, I think self-care is a lot of times misconstrued. And I think we think of self-care as one element of self-care, which is kind of the pampering element. Oh, self-care means I'm going to go get a manicure, I'm going to take a hot bubble bath or get a massage or those kind of things. But when I'm talking about self-care, that's not what I'm referring to at all. The old focus of the podcast was when moms take care of themselves, they can take better care of everyone else. True self-care to me means meeting your own needs so that you're able to serve in the world. You're able to do what you need to do in the world because your own needs are met. So before you can meet your own needs, you need to understand your own needs. And what that means to me is that there needs to be a pause. Instead of go, just going through your day, going through the motions, doing all the things on your checklist, you need to pause and you need to evaluate and you need to see, okay, what is it that I actually need? I cannot do true self-care without that evaluation, because what I needed yesterday might not be what I need today. I need to take a break. Sometimes it's a big break, right? It's going off in the mountains by yourself and figuring it out. Sometimes it's just a simple quiet moment in your day. Whatever it is, wherever you're at, you need to have regular and consistent evaluation to figure out what your needs are. And then we can break it down a little further. Self-care is mental self-care. What do I need in my mind? What do I need to be feeding my mind with? With information, what kind of information is going to best serve me? What do I need to be learning about? What do I need to be putting into practice? What breaks does my mind need? What breaks for my mental self-care? Do I need meditation? Do I need music? What kind of things are really going to help me to get in the right mental space? And then there's physical self-care too. Am I sitting all day? My bodies don't like that. Our bodies don't like to sit all day. So what is it that my body is calling for? Maybe you're rushing around all day and your body is calling for a nap, but you are rushing and pushing past and not taking the time to realize that you need to lay down for 5 minutes. So that is, when I say self-care, that's what I'm talking about. Self-care is knowing your needs and meeting those needs. It's not selfish in any way. It's not leaving your kids for, hours and hours while you go get massages and hot bubble baths, although it may be that for sometimes. There definitely are times when it needs to be that. But on the regular, it's just checking in and doing what you need. The last little aspect of the podcast focus is living our God-given purpose. Now, I intentionally put the words God-given into this phrase, and that's because I think that I want to connect us to the idea that we are here on this earth for a reason, and we're here at this time for a reason. And there are different seasons of our lives, and we have different things that we need to do. And so I want us to really hone in on this. What are you meant to be doing Why has God put you here now? And what does He have in mind for you? And the podcasts that we will do on purpose are going to focus on that. You'll hear stories of people living their purpose, and you'll hear ideas of how to get closer to your own purpose. I remember years ago, I read a book called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. You may have read that popular book. And he talked about living, he calls it your personal destiny. And it's this idea of purpose. I was a young mom at the time, and I did not like that. I didn't like to even think about purpose. I didn't like this book because I felt like, oh, I can't have a purpose. My purpose right now is kids. And is that really all I'm here for, is just to raise these kids? I know it's the most important. Why? I don't know why I had this hang up about it, right? But I felt like, man, that's my purpose? That's all I'm here to do in life? Fast forward a little bit, and I'll tell you, that was the season for me to be all in on my family, all in on my kids. I still very highly prioritize my family and spending time with them and building those relationships. But I see now with a different perspective that there are other purposes in my life. That is one of my purposes. I've done lots of things over the years, and those were also some of my purposes. Purpose doesn't have to mean we're earning money from something. Purpose doesn't have to mean that it's something big that gives us notoriety and likes on Facebook and all these things. Purpose means, are you in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing, with what God is telling you to do? And that's what we're going to talk about with purpose, which that one gets me really excited and even a little emotional as I'm talking about it, because can you imagine a world where we were all living our purpose? It's so exciting to think about, because when I see people living their purpose, oh, it's amazing. I have this friend who is teaching water aerobics. She's so good at it. She is so good. And when I see her doing that, she is living her purpose in that moment. She's teaching people. She's having this amazing opportunity to connect with them and to teach them. That is one part of her purpose. Maybe you're an amazing baker and you make these cookies and you deliver those to your neighbor. That is also a part of your purpose. Purpose is so big. And when we tap into our purposes, when we live those, that is when we feel that connection. We feel good about what we're doing because we know we're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. When you prioritize these three things, family relationships, self-care, and living your God-given purpose, you're going to feel connection. You're going to feel connection to yourself, your own needs, your own desires. You're going to feel connection to your family, and you're going to feel connection to your identity, to who you are, to why you're here on this earth. You'll know what you need to do, but you'll also know what you need to skip, the things that you need to not do, the things that you need to do less of. And I really feel like when these three are in alignment, yes, you're still going to have hard days. Life isn't easy, but it allows you to see the big picture. It allows you to get into focus and to understand your purpose and to live it through these three things. So to me, this is a super exciting change that will allow us to connect with the most important parts of our lives, and through that, connect with each other. You will notice with the new podcast, I'll have a new question, and this question for guests is going to ask them for one little thing to take away. Now, this might be a thought that they want us to work on changing. This might be one little action step. But the idea is I want the guests to tell me their takeaway, what really matters in, the whole conversation that we've had. If they could sum it up in one sentence, what is that? What really is the important pivotal thing that you could get from this podcast? Now, that's from their perspective. I'm also going to ask you, what one little thing did you get from this podcast? And that matters too, because this is asking you this: what action are you actually going to take? What thoughts are you actually going to change? Or what will you let go of? What's going to be different in your life because you listened to this podcast? One little thing. And I encourage you, every time you listen to an episode of the podcast, to think about that, because one little thing at a time, that is how we make progress in our lives. Little bit here and a little bit there. Let these podcasts sink in. Let them help to change you and to grow you and to become who you want to become. So here are some things to expect as we move forward. We'll continue to have episodes with guests. We'll continue to have solo episodes where I come on here and talk to you. And I'll also continue to do episodes with James, mainly the Couples Who Know episodes talking about marriage, but we may branch out and talk about other things here and there also. I also will be more active and connected, and I'm more committed to getting out there more on social media. I'll be doing more lives, and I have kind of held back. Now, I do post on social media, but I'm not super active on social media a lot of times because, to be quite honest, a lot of the time what I see on social media I think is so dumb, and I feel like, who wants to do social media? I don't want to be a part of that. But the more I've thought about it, the more I've realized this. I don't have to put out what everyone else is putting out. And so what my social media will be is I want to use that platform as a teaching platform. I'm going to come on and teach you life lessons I've learned, things I've been reading, things I've been studying, ways to implement information that we've heard on the podcast. This is going to be a continuation of the podcast where I get to connect with you. And social media, one of the great things about it, it's a way that I can hear back from you. I do have live events and I hope you'll join me at them. But for the people that never do, we can still connect through social media, and I can get to know what your struggles are and what you're thinking about when you interact and when you talk to me on that platform. So another thing you can expect is more blog posts. You'll be seeing me as well as other people post on the blog, and you can get to that from momswhoknowpodcast.com and then click on blog. You'll see there are a few there already and lots more to come. We'll continue to have in-person events, and those are going to be workshops as well as retreats. James and I are working on a marriage retreat to come in the future, and just all kinds of exciting things because I want to see you. I want to meet you. I want to get to know you. I am available for speaking. If you have a speaking event that you need someone to come and speak at, then I am available to do that, whether it's at an event or even a church activity or wherever. Reach out to me and let me know. There are also programs that I'm working on to help you in each of these areas of building your family relationships, of taking care of yourself, and of living your God-given purpose. And I have some amazing things that I've been working on that I'm so excited to share because I just really feel like these are the things that are going to help you to get to the next level in these areas. So keep an eye out for those. Now, to finish up, I just have a few invitations for you. The first one is, if you're not there already, follow me on Facebook and Instagram. There's going to be so much more good stuff to come. I want you there with me. And like I said, I want you joining in on the conversation. The next is, if you're a writer, if you have something in any of these areas that you feel like would benefit my audience, I would love to invite you to write a blog post. All you need to do is go to momswhoknowpodcast.com. On the contact me form, you will see a little link there to submit your proposal for a blog post. I'll let you know if it's something that I think would be a good fit, and then you can write something up for the blog. You can also apply to be a guest, or if you know someone who would be a great guest, let me know. As we're doing this shift, I'm looking for new guests who have a lot to share in these areas. And you get to that the same way, momswhoknowpodcast.com, click on contact me, and you will see a little link for applying to be a podcast guest. Of course, you can always join me at my events by clicking on that events link to see what I have coming up. And you can request me to come and speak. Now, if you haven't already, please share the podcast. Let people know. If you know someone who this new podcast direction is just what they need, share it with them. You can send it to them right now over text. You can share it on your Facebook or Instagram or wherever you're on social media. You can also leave a review. That's super helpful because that lets other people know, hey, this is a podcast worth listening to. I want to conclude by saying this. I am so grateful that you guys are here. When I look and I see the statistics, and I can't see your faces, but I can see numbers of who's listening. And I try to think of real people sitting in these seats. And I picture all of you and all of us in a room together. And that is humbling that you all came to hear me speak on this podcast. And I thank you for giving me your time and your energy and being here with me, even if it's months later that you're listening to this. When I hear from people that a podcast episode touched their life and that they were able to change something or feel something because of what we shared on the podcast, that helps me connect with my purpose. And one of my purposes is to do this podcast, to share these things with you. I'm so thankful for you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you next week on Moms Who Know.